This week's Devar Torah is Parshat BaMidbar, brought to you by Be There Israel and Or Chadash. We're beginning a new book, BaMidbar, and the entire book is named after what it says in the first sentence. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe BaMidbar Sinai, and God spoke to Moshe in the desert of Sinai. So this whole book is called the desert. In the desert, actually. In the desert. So we want to understand on a deeper level, what does that mean? In English, we call this the book of Numbers, which is a good description of the book, but it's not a translation. Because in the first two parshas, especially this parsha, there are a lot of numbers. That Israel is being numbered as individuals, as families, as tribes, and as groups of 3 tribes. The Levim are being counted. Everyone's being counted and put in their place according to their tribe, their family, their flag, their direction. In other words, this is the context in which this whole book gets played out, because we end up wandering in the desert for 40 years. At this point, the plan was for Israel to go, the Jewish people to go right into Israel after a year in the desert. But because of the sin of the spies, we ended up being there 40 years. So this idea of in the desert, this represents everyone's journey through life. The very last parsha of BaMidbar is Maseh. And in Maseh, the 42 camps or stops in the desert are reviewed. And the Baal Shem Tov said that these 42 stops represent each person's journey through life. Now, the way we could see this is a very beautiful thing, is that there are many, many different birthing paradigms that are given to understand the stories in the Torah. First, we should know that the word Torah is usually translated from the root hora'ah, which means instruction. That's a simple understanding. When we say the Torah, its translation is the book of instructions. But Rav Ginsburg points out that the root for Torah can also be seen as hara, which is the root of harayon, which is pregnancy. The same root of pregnancy is the root of Torah. So this is a very, very beautiful idea, is that the Torah is, in a sense, always pregnant with meaning. It's always giving birth to new meaning. So this paradigm of birth is a very important thing. And there's a number of ways to see it. One is that the stay in Egypt was the pregnancy. The 10 plagues are the birth pangs. And the crossing of the sea is the breaking of the waters. A woman can't give birth unless there's a breaking of the waters. And our coming through the waters, like coming through the birth canal and into birth. We could go into it in much more detail, but we don't have the time now. Another paradigm, which is close, is that the same thing, the pregnancy is in Egypt, the birth pangs are the 10 plagues, the people are born on Pesach night, and then when we come to the sea, this is a paradigm for circumcision, because we come through the sea and the Egyptians are cut off, like cutting off the foreskin. The other one that I want to get to is the one that applies to the word BaMidbar. Since we were in the desert for 40 years, this parallels 40 weeks of pregnancy. So the midbar, in a sense, becomes the pregnancy, and then coming into the Holy Land at the end of the 40 years is like the birth. Now, each one of these paradigms works perfectly, and it's tremendous symbolism, but they all have the same meaning here as life as constant rebirth. And BaMidbar in the desert represents the journey through life. Or here, the journey through pregnancy before life. In the macro picture, we can see that all of history is a state of pregnancy. And the birth will only happen in the Messianic time. Now, right now, we're all in gestation, the whole world. It's waiting for a new birth, which is Mashiach. So this is one way to see all the stories that are going to unfold in BaMidbar is really connected to our own journeys through life. And there's a lot of ups and downs in the desert, and a lot of very significant symbolic stories that are very meaningful for our own life. So we have to learn to translate these into our own experiences. One beautiful hint here is that BaMidbar is Gematria Avraham. That Avraham, the first Jew, began a journey. And now we have the children who are now a nation. God told Avraham, you'll be a great nation. But at one point there was just Avraham and Sarah. Now we have the great nation entering into the Midbar on their journey to the Holy Land. Because God said, your children will go into exile for 4 generations, and then I'll bring them back to Israel. So the BaMidbar is where the journey is coming to its fulfillment before they return to the Holy Land. Avraham equals B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God. That Avram represents the ideal, fixed human being. We should say Avram and Sarah. And so, a lot of times our struggles in life are trying to come to terms with our own development of being in the image of God. And as we talked many weeks ago, and Sfira to Omer, of going from our animal soul to perfecting our human soul. And the Midbar is like the training ground for when this is happening. So we should realize that the stories that we're going to be reading in these parshiot, we have to learn to translate them into our own experiences and to see how we fit into these stories, and that these stories are telling our story. And hopefully the journey will not be too traumatic, and we should all merit to enter the Holy Land. Thanks for watching this Devar Torah. If you like what you heard, which I hope you did, please come to our YouTube station, our website, our Facebook, our blog, our Twitter, and take advantage of a plethora of Torah, of audio classes, videos, poetry, stories, music, word and gematria search. You'll find a lot there, and please share this with your friends. www.thetrugmans.com